Sunday morning worship, and we just thank God for just keeping us from then to now that we have an opportunity to come into His Word again as a church family and friends of this ministry, just to look and see what God has for us to say, have for us, saying to us in the daily as we live our daily lives. And I thought about on this week family. And I thought about, when we talk about a family, really, we ask ourselves to question what is family. And many times we feel that we have the answer to that question. But I constantly find myself asking myself, do the world really know what true family is? And I decided to do some research on family to see biblically what real family is. And it led me to the book of Ruth. And if you will, tonight, come with me to the book of Ruth. And we're going to begin in the first chapter. But as I was thinking about that and pondering on family, I want to talk about family and how important it is to have family. It's very important that we attach ourselves to somebody as being family. Because one day we want to go to the heavenly family, and we need to know how to interact with each other down here as a family, those who love one another unconditionally. And so when we think about family, family is just not through the blood, but family is also through association. And so we're going to look at that tonight. And when I was thinking about this, I want to just look at how important family is. And when I look at the word family, I ask myself the question: what would that word mean if I broke down the letters? If I separated all of them and just said FAMILY, what would that mean? And as I did that, I separated them to see if they were going to make sense. And I looked at family. First of all, F is for faithful. A is in and. M means merciful. I means in. And L means love. And Y means you. So when I look at that again, faithful and merciful and loving you. And it takes all of that faithful. We got to be faithful to one another and loving each other unconditionally. So faithful and loving you, merciful and loving you. So when you look at that and add those letters up, it made sense to me, because you have to be faithful and you sure enough got to be loving. So when I looked at that, I thought about this story in the book of Ruth, and we're going to look at it tonight. And I went to Webster because I wanted to know what was the definition of being a family. What is the definition that Webster said about family? And Webster said it like this: that family is a group of people related by blood, related by marriage, or related by adoption. And when I looked at that, I looked at the word related by adoption. And when I looked at being related by adoption, it led me to the book of Genesis. So I'm going to ask you tonight, come with me. We're going to keep our finger on Ruth, but come with me to Genesis, the book of Genesis, first book in the Bible. And when I thought about the creation of the universe, I thought about how God created the heavens and the earth. And the Bible says in Genesis chapter 1 and verse 27. In verse 27. So God created man in his own image, and in the likeness of God created him, male and female created him them. God created the heavens and the earth. And God made man in his own image. And I had to put a pin there. We're supposed to exemplify who God is, because the Bible says here in Genesis 1, chapter 27, God created man in his own image. And in the image of God created him, male and female, created he them. And God blessed them. And God said unto them to be fruitful and to multiply, to replenish the earth. So when I think about family, and all of us are kinfolk, but I don't mean that we are act like family. We are all kinfolk, but many times we don't act like family. We don't act like we are kin to one another. And when I was looking at this, I had to go back to this verse again. When I got down to verse 29, look what it says in Genesis chapter 1 and verse 29. And God said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of the earth, and every tree in which the fruit thereof is a tree yielding seed, and ye shall be, and it shall be meat for you. In other words, God said, I created you, I made you, but now I'm also providing for you. And when I think about this, you know, God, we're part of God's family. And God provides for us. He nurtures us and give us the things that we need to try to keep going. And by God doing all these things for us, it lets us know that God loves us. And that's the word I'm trying to get to tonight. Because if we are family, then we all exemplify what love is. But many a times, even in our local family, even in our relative families, there may not be love for everybody. Everybody ain't loving everybody. So when I kept looking at that, I said, well, now is this thing that supposed to exemplify love and supposed to exemplify a family? Then many times God's people are not being family. When you look at how we treat one another, how we talk to one another, how we distance ourselves from one another. And when I thought about that, I thought about this family in the Bible here. Let's go back to it. In the book of Deuteronomy. Let's go back. I'm sorry, in the book of Ruth. Come back to the book of Ruth. And I looked at this family and what they went through and how they exemplified what real family is supposed to be. The Bible says here in Ruth chapter 1, it says, now it came to pass in the day when the judges ruled that there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem, Judea, went out to sojourn in the country. Moab, he and his wife, and his 2 sons. And the name of the man was Elimelech. And the name of the wife was Naomi. And the name of the 2 sons were Maon and Chilion, Ephraimites of Bethlehem of Judea. And they came into the country of Moab and continued there. Now, can I put a pin in it tonight? Because here in the book of Ruth, it describes their family. It told them who they were. Verse 1, now it came to pass when the judges ruled that there was a famine in the land. There was something going on. They couldn't find food where they were, so they had to get together as a family, and they journeyed to another country. And a certain man of Bethlehem, Judea, went to sojourn in another country. He went to Moab and his wife and his 2 sons. And then it goes on down in verse 3, if you will. It said, in Elimelech, Naomi's husband died. That's what I was trying to get to. When her husband died, look what happened. And she left and her 2 sons. And she was left and her 2 sons. The husband had passed, the daddy has passed. Now the only 2 people that's left is her and her 2 sons. And then her 2 sons took wives after their daddy died. And in verse 4, and they and they took them wives of the women of Moab. The name of the one was Oprah, and the name of the other was Ruth. And they dwelt there about 10 years. After Elimelech died, his two sons took wives, and they stayed there for about 10 years. And then the Bible said in verse 5, and Mahlon and Chilion died. Also, both of them. Now, not only had Naomi's husband died, but after the 10th year of her husband died, her two sons died. But the two sons had took wives after they died as past. The family is still holding together. After daddy died, the family stayed together. And their mother was there with them, Naomi. But then when I got down to verse 6, look what it said. Then, from verse 5, and Mahlon and Chilion died. Now, after her husband died, 10 years later, her two sons died. And she's left there alone with her two daughters-in-law. They still sticking together as a family. People are dying off, but they still stand together as a family. And then when I went down to verse 6, if you will, it said, after her husband and her two sons died, then she arose with her daughters-in-law. She arose with her daughter-in-law, that she may return from the country of Moab. For she had heard in the country of Moab how that the Lord had visited his people and given them bread. She had been gone for a long time. And now they in a famine. And they didn't have any food where they were. So she decided to go back home. And now here she is with her two daughter-in-law. But watch what happened here in the story with her two daughter-in-law. When I get down to verse 7 again, wherefore she went forth out of the place where she was, and her two daughters-in-laws was with her, still family. And they went on their way to return to the land of Judah. She said, I'm going to go back home. I lost my husband, I lost my two sons, and now I got two daughter-in-laws with me, and I'm going to go back home. And when she got ready to go back home, look at verse 8. It said in verse 8, and Naomi said unto her two daughters-in-law, go, return each to her mother's house. She said, y'all ain't got to go with me. Y'all can go ahead and go back home to your mother's house. My sons are dead. I'm too old now, she said, to bear more sons to become your husbands. So she said, go back home. And as she began to migrate to where she was getting ready to go, look what happened in verse 9. In verse 9, it said, the Lord grant you, this is what she's telling her two daughter-in-law, may the Lord grant you that ye may find rest, each of you in the house of her husband. She said, I know y'all was married to my sons, but now my sons is gone. She said, go back to your mother's house and your father's house. Go back to your people and find you a husband. She said, I love you. But go back and find your husband. I went down to verse 9. The Lord may grant you that you may find rest, each of you in the house of her husband. Then she kissed them, and they lifted up their voices and wept. Now, can I put a pin here tonight? Because, see, after all of this tragedy that had come into their lives, they went to their land because there was starving. There was a famine in the land. They had hardship, and they went there. And while she was there, not only did she lose her husband, but while she was in a foreign country, she lost her two sons as well. And now here she is getting ready to go back, and now she's addressing her daughter-in-law. In verse 10, and they said unto her, surely we will. Go back to verse 9. The Lord grant you that ye may find rest, each of you, in the house of her husband. Both of you go back and get married. Then she kissed them, and they lifted up their voices, and they cried. But when I got down to verse 10, I looked at this thing called family again. Because family is not always you are the same bloodline, but family is those who stick together no matter what is going on. In verse 11, and Naomi said, turn again, my daughters, why will we go with you? Are there yet any more sons in my womb, that they may be your husbands? She said, I can't bear any more children. Went down to verse 12. She told them, turn again, my daughters, go your way, for I am too old to have a husband. If I should say, I hope if I should have a husband, also tonight, if I had a husband tonight and should also bear a son. Look what she's telling them in verse 13. Would ye tarry for them until they grown? Would you stay for them from having husbands? Nay, my daughter, she said, I don't want to put that on you to wait for me to bear more sons for you to have husbands. Verse 13, for it grieved me much for your sake, that the hand of the Lord is gone out against me. She said, I feel like I got a curse on me. But girls, y'all been good to me. I can still find goodness in the land in which I'm living. I lost all of my family and I'm in a foreign country. And she's telling them, y'all show me love. She's telling them, you are my family. But at the same time, she said, you don't have to stay with me now. Your husbands are dead. My sons are gone. And the reason I'm saying it like this is because I'm building up to something. When you got family and it ain't blood, when you don't call them kinfolk, but they still sticking with you. Many of us have families in our neighborhood, neighbors that we moved next door to. And they became to us more family than maybe some of our closer relatives that we may have in the family. I went down to verse 14, if you will. And they lifted up their voices. The two girls began to cry and wept. And Oprah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth cleaved unto her. Now, one of the daughters, Oprah, she went back home to her family. But one of them named Ruth, she said, I'm not going to leave them. The love that we have for one another says that you're my family and I'm your family. And I went down to verse 14 again, and they lifted up their voices and they wept again. And Oprah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clave unto her. And she said, behold, our sister-in-law is gone back unto her people and unto her gods. And I got to put a pin here because she said they gone back to their gods, little G-O-D. Now, she was in a land that did not serve the same God that they served. And her sons married daughters that used to serve these foreign gods as well. But now she's getting ready to go back. Watch this. She's getting ready to go back home. And one of the daughters named Ruth said, entreat me not to leave you or return from following you. For whether thou goest, I will go. And whether thou lodge, I will lodge. She said, from now on, thou people should be my people. And your God should be my God. She made a conscious decision as to what family she wanted to go to, what family she wanted to stay in. And she was saying here, from now on, the God that you serve, that's going to become my God. Your family will become my family. And can I put a pin here tonight? Many times we marry into families. We marry into generations. And many times when we do that, a lot of times we don't realize the association that comes along with it. A marriage is a bond, not only between two people, but other people comes involved in that. Other families come involved in that is what I'm trying to say tonight. And here we are, we have a tight bond now. But separations have to take place. And as I was looking at this, I got down to verse 16. Watch what this says. And Ruth said, entreat me not to leave thee, or nor from following after thee. But whether thou go, I will go. And where thou lodge, I will lodge. Thou people should be my people. And thou God, my God. not blood related. They wasn't, but they was family. And what I'm trying to say tonight, many times our own blood relative may not be as close to us as somebody else that we just took in, somebody else that we have no, that we don't have no relations with, but they become our family. I went down to verse 18, verse 17, to where thou diest, I will die, and there I will be buried. The Lord do so to me and more also, if aught but death part be in me. Now, this is Ruth talking to her mother-in-law, Naomi. She said, the only thing that's going to separate us now is you die or I die. But other than that, we're going to stick together as family. I went down to verse 19, and it talks about Ruth and Naomi, how they returned back to Bethlehem, the holy city, the holy land. In verse 19, so they two went until they came to Bethlehem. And it came to pass when they were come to Bethlehem that all the city was moved about them. And they said, is this Naomi? Some of the folk that remember Naomi when she left, they recognized her when she came back. And look at this, when she came back without her husband and her two sons, but she came back with somebody else. And this somebody else is going to really show her what family really is. Verse 20, and she said unto them, call me not Naomi, call me Mara, for the Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me. She said, I'm a woman of sorrow. All of my family is gone. And the Lord has dealt very bitterly with me. But she didn't know and understand what God had in store for her. When I got down to verse 21, it said, I went out full, she said, and the Lord had brought me back again empty. She said, when me and Amalek came and left here, I was full. I had family. And now when I come back, all of them are gone. But then there's somebody else that's still with her. Look at verse 21. When I went out full, and the Lord had brought me home again empty. When they called ye me Naomi, seeing the Lord had testified against me, and the Almighty had afflicted me. She was crying out as a woman of sorrow. And somewhat in bitterness because God had took everything away from her. But she didn't realize what she still had. Y'all know how we do when things happen to us, and we get in sorrow. God, sometimes God will send somebody to you to show you that somebody, you still mean something to somebody. I went down to verse 22, and it says, so Naomi returned, and Ruth, the Moabite, her daughter-in-law, with her, which returned out of the country of Moab. And they came to Bethlehem in the beginning of barley harvest. When they came back, it was the beginning of barley harvest. Fields was ripe and food was good. And here they are coming at a time where people are prospering again. And then when I got down to chapter 2 and verse 1, look what it says. It says, Naomi had a kinsman of her husband, a mighty man of wealth of the family of Elimelech. In his name was Boaz. And Ruth the Moabite said unto Naomi, let me now go to the field and glean ears of corn after him, in whose sight I shall find grace. Now here she is. She said, telling her mother-in-law, we hungry. We ain't got nowhere to stay. And I'm going to take care of you. You're old now, and I promised you I was going to be your daughter when I married your son. And I'm not turning my back on you. I'm staying here, and I'm going to take care of you. And that's what families do. Not so much even if you're in blood. We have relatives, and we have neighbors that may stick closer to us than a brother. And what I'm trying to paint the picture tonight is that family, true family love, will stay with you, walk with you, help you along the way. Verse 2 again in chapter 2. And Ruth, the Moabitess, said unto Naomi, let me now go to the field and glean ears of corn after him whose sight I shall find grace. And she said unto her, go, my daughter. And she went and came and gleaned after the fields, after the reapers, in her house. And she just so happened to light up on a part of the field that belonged to Boaz, who was the Kenyan Elimelech, who was the Kenyan of Naomi's dead husband. In verse 4, and behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem and said unto the reapers, the Lord be with you. And they answered him, the Lord be with thee. Now, can I put a pin here tonight? This man, Boaz, he was no ordinary man himself. This man talked about God, and he knew who God was. And here he is finding out that his cousin's wife is back, and that she brought her daughter-in-law with her. And God sent compassion in Boaz's heart, that he wanted to make sure that they was going to be taken care of. That's what I'm talking about, family. See, when family see that a person have a need, they try to do things to help out the family. And let me say this tonight. Naomi and Ruth had became family. And Boaz is going to find out is that how close of a family that they were. I went down to verse 5 and it said, then said Boaz to his servant that was set over the reapers, whose damsel is this? And the servant that was set over the reapers answered and said, it is the Moabite damsel that came back with Naomi out of the country of Moab. He said, that girl is the one that came back with Naomi out of the country of Moab. And then in verse 6 again, and the servant that was set over the reapers answered and said, it is the Moabite's damsel that came back with Naomi. And then in verse 7, she said, I pray you, let me glean and gather out of the reapers among the sheaves. Now, I marked in my Bible, she said, I pray thee. This woman, she wasn't a Jew, but this woman understood the power of prayer. She understood that humbleness and humbling herself and making herself available to Naomi's need is going to be a blessing to both of them. And what I'm trying to say tonight, sometimes when we humble ourselves and trying to be a blessing to somebody else's need, we take them in and we treat them like family. The association is there where we begin to love one another. And many times we may be in love with this person more so than other folk that may be in our family. You may be trying to love them, but they won't love you back. So when I said the word family tonight, when we think about the word family tonight, I ask the question, what is family? Family is those that will come together and love one another and be there for one another and wait on God together. That's what family really is. And I'm gonna say that again before we go further. I know my time is running out. But when we look at this, and when I went over to Genesis tonight, and it talks about Adam and Eve, and it talks about when they bear their son Cain and Abel. We know that Cain and Abel were brothers, but did they have family love for one another? The Bible tells us that Cain slew Abel just because God recognized his sacrifice. Abel's sacrifice was better than Cain. And he slew his own brother. He didn't exemplify love. Now, they was of the same clan. But Cain didn't show love to his brother. And what I'm trying to say tonight, we may encounter the same thing even in some of our family. I'm just gonna make it real tonight. A lot of times family members don't get along with one another. And you may have a coworker on the job that may stick closer to you than your own brother. You may have a neighbor down the street that stick closer to you than your own family. So what I'm saying tonight, sometimes we choose our family who's going to be in our life. The people that we love, the people that we try to help, and people that help us. Those who do for one another to make sure that this person is being taken care of. They doing all right over there. Even in our neighborhood, we call each other family. Just my family down the street. They know if they need anything, I'm going to do my best to try to help them out. So we got to be careful when we use the word family. We'll say, yeah, that's my family. But do we have an association? Do we have respect for one another? Do we have hope for one another? Naomi exemplified all of this in this text tonight. They wasn't blood family, but they sure enough became family. I went down to verse 8, if you will. Let me go back to verse 7. I know my time's running out, Brother Larry. Let me know when I get about 10 minutes. And she said, I pray you let me glean and gather after the reapers among the sheep. So she came and had continued even from the morning until now. The sheep tarried a little in the house. She said, when everybody else went to lunch, she was out there. She went in. She just went in and got a drink of water. And she turned around and came back out to the field because she knew that not only she had a need, but she needed to take care of her mother-in-law. And she would need to take care of her family. That was not blood, but that was family. Then in verse 8, it said, then said Boaz unto Ruth, harvest thou not my daughter? Go not to glean in another field. Look at Boaz. He's seeing the faithfulness of Naomi and how she's treating her mother-in-law. He said, don't you go nowhere and glean in another field. Matter of fact, I want you to come here every day and glean in this field. I see your faithfulness and your love that y'all have for one another. Then verse 8, then Boaz said unto Ruth, harvest thou not my daughter? Go not and glean in another field, neither go from hence, but abide here, fast by my maids. In other words, he said, not only don't go to another field, but I want you to come from gleaning in the back and come up here to where my maidens are. And I want you to begin to glean with them, because if you come up front and glean with them, you'll be able to harvest more. It's a favor when you got love for one another. Means a lot. And when God recognizes we got favor for one another, when we got love for one another, and we treat each other like we're brothers and sisters, like we're family, God, when he sees what we're doing from the heart, the Bible says what comes from the heart, it reaches the heart. And here it is, what Naomi was doing, what Ruth was doing for Naomi, it reached Boaz's heart. I went down to verse 8, then said Boaz to Ruth, harvest thou not my daughter? Go and not glean in another field, neither go from hence, but abide here fastened to my maids. Let thy eyes be on the field that they reap. Let your eyes be on the field that they do reap. In other words, he said, I'm going to show enough blessing. And go there after them. He said, get right up there with them. And go right with them to do the gleaning. Now she's found favor because of who she was and the love that she had for her mother-in-law. We're down to verse 10. Well, no, can't go there for yet. The second part of verse 9. Have I not charged the young men that they should not touch thee? He said, you ain't got to worry about nobody messing with you. As long as you glean in my field, I already told the men, don't touch it. Went on down, and when thou artist, go unto the vessel and drink. When thou art athirst, he said, go get drink just like anybody else that's in my field. anybody else in my whole household. In other words, he said, I'm bringing you in just like your family. I'm bringing you in just like you're a part of us. Why? Because of what she's shown, the love that she's shown for others. Now it's coming right back to her. Verse 10. Then she fell on her face and bowed herself to the ground and said unto him, why have I found grace in thine eyes, that thou shouldest take a knowledge of me, seeing I am a stranger? We're going to close down on this part tonight. Because you take knowledge of me, seeing that I am a stranger. Why are you doing all this for me? Verse 10. Then she fell on her face. Now, I like what the Bible said here. She positioned herself for even more favor from God through Boaz. She humbled herself because of what the man that she did not know seen in her, that he decided he wanted to bless her. And here she is when he tell her that she can come on up with everybody else. She fell on her knees on her face and bowed herself to the ground and said unto him, have I found grace in thine eyes, that thou shouldest take knowledge of me, seeing that I am a stranger? God will send us if we show love within ourselves. If we act like we love one another the way that Naomi and Ruth loved one another. Came together still as a family. Loving on each other. Doing the right thing. Ruth was doing the right thing for her mother-in-law. And she felt that it was her responsibility to take care of her. And she did everything that she could to make sure she was doing what she promised that she was going to do. That's real family. Not by blood, but by association and by love, by caring, and understanding that somebody else may have a need that may become my need as well. And Naomi had the strength. Ruth had the strength to not only take care of Ruth, but she had the strength to take care of Naomi as well because of she loved her. And I thank God tonight. We're gonna leave it there. Brother, how much time we got? Okay. We're going to leave it there tonight. I want to come back to this next week because there's still so much in this lesson I didn't get a chance to talk about tonight. We're going to come back to it next week. And if you will, go ahead and read the rest of chapter 2 and also chapter 3. And if you want to keep reading, go ahead to chapter 4. There's so much in here that we need to look at. But just wanted to open the door tonight about what really is family, what is family. And we're going to find out a lot in this text, what real family is and what real family is supposed to be. So we thank God tonight. Come on, let's turn our mics on. And we're going to get ready to get out of here. Let's say our hellos and our goodbyes.
Hello, Pastor.
Hello, how you doing, Sister Rita?
I'm doing fine. Hi, First Lady.
God bless you. Doing fine. She's doing fine as well.